All right, everybody, welcome back to the Get It Done podcast. My name is Joe Zanca, your host, co-founder, and COO of On Demand Storage. And today I'm with Dr. Teri Baydar of White Lily Coaching. Teri, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you coming on. I know we had just kind of connected recently at a networking event, which the whole purpose of me starting this podcast was that, I wasn't able to network as much as I once was with COVID. So I wanted to keep in touch with, my former colleagues and make new relationships some way. So, but we were able to meet on, a more formalized kind of networking group. And I thought what you did was really interesting. So I wanted to have you on and talk. So if you could, would you tell us a little bit about White Lily and your experience running that company?
Sure. Yep. So, I guess White Lily has been around for, I don't know. I stopped counting around 12 years. Um, and we specialize really or I specialize. It's mostly solopreneur, but I do have part-time colleagues. And I do participate in group projects and things like that. So mostly what we do is look at how you're thinking about things.
Sure.
And one of the things I say a lot is you can't scale your company if you can't scale yourself. If you're stuck in the weeds, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that goes also for heads of department, or that goes for sales representatives in pharma, or it doesn't really matter. If you're trying to grow, you've got to grow yourself. And most of that is understanding what got you here won't get you there. Mm-hmm. And that you need to change not just what you're doing, but you need to change at a deeper level, kind of on an inner journey, who you're being, why you're doing it, what's working, what's not working for you. And I really talk a lot about getting out of your left brain into your right mind, understanding where's your ROI as a human being, not just in your business. If you understand where your ROI is as a human being, you will be much more successful at any activity that you undertake. Does that make sense?
Like that. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, what you're talking about with scaling, I've seen it firsthand. You know what I mean? A lot of people go out and start a business and they are their business. So it's like, you might start like a marketing company or a small social media type company and you get some clients and you have some success, but the company isn't really a company. It's just you. And the people who are working with, they can get SEO and social media from plenty of other places, but they are working with you, not your company. So when you start it that way, it's tough to expand because you'll reach a certain point where you just can't scale your time anymore. And then it goes into what you were saying about, how to spend time efficiently and effectively. And that's where, having an understanding of, like you said, getting an ROI, like a lot of people might think, working 15 hours a day is the best ROI they're going to get. Whereas, setting up your schedule so that you can take some time off and enjoy things that you like to do outside of work inevitably will lead to more success, probably because you're taking some time away from just sitting behind a computer or doing whatever it is you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, there's a mind shift. There's a paradigm shift that happens. If you want to go from just management to leadership, there is a mind shift that happens. And you have to walk through that fire. And that is understanding that things like effectiveness will be your highest efficiency.
Sure.
To understand that what you're doing and how you're doing it are interconnected. It's not just get stuff done.
Right.
I know we all like to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's the name of the show.
I know. That's why I'm playing with it. Right? We all want to get stuff done. But which stuff?
Yeah, it could be anything.
Why that stuff over some other stuff? What's the most important stuff that's going to give you more stuff at the outcome? And so understanding, and it comes back to people like Simon Sinek and all of that, in that, you know, what's your why? That's his way of doing it. What's your why? What do what's important for you? And we talk about passion, like you got to be passionate. And most of us are passionate about something for about 5 minutes,
Mm,
because it's fun and it's new and it's a novelty. And then we go 3 steps into it and we find out, oh, there are hurdles. Oh, darn it, it's not easy. So then we go, oh, we pivot, and then we take, oh, I'm excited about this new other thing for about 5 minutes until it comes to a hurdle again. So,
right.
so understanding that passion part, that drive, that comes from who you are. That comes from what I call like the jewel in the wound.
Gotcha.
Some of the, like, I know, for example, this chiropractor, he's the best, amazing chiropractor. Why? Because as a child, he had terrible back problems. He's like, okay, I'm going to devote my life to fixing this. I'm going to present solutions to people because I know what it feels like.
Yep.
His passion comes from who he is, from his story, from his own pain.
Hmm.
And he's doing it he's not skimming across the surface because this is a job. It was directly a calling for him, and then it became a job. And then he goes through the dailies of dealing with people, and his accounts and his clients, and the billing that
Yep.
comes later.
Definitely. I mean, starting with why is, I think is super important, especially when you're doing a business unit, because that is what it's always going to be the fuel that's there to keep moving forward. Like you said, people will dive into things and it will seem like a cool idea for 5 minutes. And then, it's just, if it's not backed by like a real reason,
Hmm.
then you're not going to do it. And when I started my company, I mean, I never really had a passion for storage or moving people's stuff, but I had a passion to be an entrepreneur. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to try to make that work. And that was just like what I wanted to do. So it kept me going. I didn't really take a plan B, state of mind to it. And now, maybe my why has changed a little bit in some ways, but at the end of the day, having that backing you is so important. And it's different for everybody a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part where you said like having it backing you. I thought that was really interesting what you just said, because there's a couple of things that come to my mind and pop for me. Um, you know, as an entrepreneur, um, your why will evolve. It always does. You as a human are going to evolve, and therefore what you do in your life is going to evolve. Just like people consider that there was this old school thing where you start by flipping burgers because you have a little job, and then you sort of get a career, you specialize, and then you discover your calling. That's not true anymore.
No.
No. You can be
Mm.
doing all three of those things all at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
It's multivariable. And that's why we have to get out of the left brain linear thinking and that little checklist thing, and be like, no, that's not enough. It's not gonna lay out in this linear fashion. Maybe it did a generation or two ago. That was a different world. Today, no, forget it. Not
Yeah.
gonna happen. And so you don't have, without the calling, you don't have the same kind of backup, because you thought, oh well, I'm still flipping burgers, I'll get to my career later, and then I'll have calling. And now you don't even stay in the same job for a couple of years if you're out there in corporate. You
Hmm.
got to keep moving.
You got it. Yep. Totally agree. So you yourself are a CEO coach. How did you get into that? How did that opportunity present itself, and how did you make that leap?
um Gosh, that's a really good question. First off, I am a very high level thinker,
Hmm.
and I'm highly educated. I'm also an all faith minister, and I work on things like consciousness, and writing a book on that, and so how people function. And when I was 21, I started out in a think tank, um, where we were dealing with the function of the unconscious mind and how we could influence social engineering. from a policy point of view, working behind the scenes for the government.
Yep.
And so I like working at a higher level. So that was my attraction. And the other thing is, I also, because of my background and my studies and research, I also understand the complexity of the problems that C-suites are dealing with, whether it's a startup, an SME, or working in corporations. It's so complex and it's very behavioral intensive to for CEOs. You really have to understand people.
Right.
Understanding Excel sheets isn't that hard,
No, no, you can get a hold of that pretty quickly.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's not that difficult. Understanding people, what they're thinking, uh, what their awareness is, being able to make judgment calls, being able to make decisions from the heart. Also, when you cannot have all the data is not yet available. You've got to pull the trigger. How do you know if you're doing the right thing? So I help them develop the inner knowing, and so that's how I ended up with CEOs, because
Gotcha. Definitely.
yeah, their problem set and my unique ability to help with that problem set
Yep. Yep.
is a good
Yes.
match.
No, definitely the qualifications and then, ability combined, definitely make you a great fit for what you're doing for sure. So what are some of the challenges that these CEOs come to you to solve? I mean, what are some of maybe the most common ones that you typically see? I'm sure more often than not, they get into doing a business and then that's when your relationship starts rather than vice versa. So
Yeah.
what do they come to you with?
There's a couple of things. Now, it's interesting you said that because it's not always that in that order. I do have executives come to me who want to become CEOs of their own kind, and
Yep.
they want to step out of maybe their corporate role and start a company.
Yep.
So
That makes sense.
that's a common thing, which is kind of how I got the name CEO Whisperer. Um, and then so a lot of the C suites, because I have a tendency to attract a lot of CTOs, which is really interesting. I'm trying to like understand that trend right now, and I don't know if it's just because I'm in Boston or what's the deal, or like it's just because tech is booming, or I have some connections to that. I don't know, but uh, they're bombarded with data.
Right.
And again, that goes back to the left brain thing. There's only so much of the weeds of all of the aggregated information that your brain can handle. There comes a point where you have to know. You have to know from the inside out what judgment call you're going to make,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to lead the corporation or lead the company forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you know? That is the number one problem that CEOs come to me for, is how to know, because there's a constant cycle of not enough information to actually be able to calculate what the outcome will be that we want, or setting up plans that don't unfold. So let's say, like, there's a part where you learn all of the techniques, you have all the tools, and you're a great manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a paradigm shift that comes if you want to be a really great, good leader.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you have to get into your right mind, you have to get into your heart space, into your inner knowing. It means things like intuitive intelligence. Who's going to teach you intuitive intelligence? Where are you going to find that?
You kind of got to find it within yourself, like, which is, I feel like because it's in there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the CTO thing is interesting because, they're very data driven, like you said, people who, are oftentimes probably very smart as well. I mean, very intelligent, high level thinkers,
Yep.
but when it comes to having to make decisions, a lot of it is pretty much just backed by data. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, this is right or this is wrong. And they're coming to you to, yeah.
Yeah. So it's backed by data. It doesn't work out. And that's when they're like,
Wait a second. Yeah. Yeah. I thought this was my whole life was making decisions based on this stuff.
yeah. And then we find out that doesn't correlate with real life.
Yeah, no. And the best CEOs you see, you know, some of the most famous ones, I feel like have very strong guts. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to like, they trust their instincts are in check.
Yes.
You know, their gut, you know, leads them in the right direction, gut plus data, but they're good at analyzing it and making decisions based on that stuff. Whereas a lot of us might have one or the other, you know what I mean? It's not like we're not very analytical and you'll make a mistake you'll trust your gut fully, but you're not looking at what could be behind that info.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And I could see it being, I mean, even in my own life, you know, sometimes I'm more of a just trust your gut person. And I need someone, you know, behind me to be like, okay, well, let's take a step back here and see like,
Right.
if we were to play this out, is there data showing that like, it's probably not going to work? And
Yeah.
I'm lucky I have a team. You know what I mean? I'm not a solopreneur. I have a couple partners, so we kind of complement each other in that regard.
Yeah. And it's also like there's also when you want to be a really good leader, you need to be willing to constantly learn and find out. Like you talk, you know, like if you have to compare, like you said, that gut feeling, you can have the gut feeling. Now that gut feeling might be, no, I don't want to do that. And that might just be basic fear.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And then if you work it out on the data, you might be able to figure out like, okay, so what is this fear? Because the data says this and my gut says this. So is it that I'm just afraid and I'm not willing to look at the data? Or is there something missing in the data? Is there something we need to explore that because I'm getting this spark of something that feels like it's unknown that needs to be known? So it's this very complex game of understanding, you know, inner and outer circumstances, our own operating system and the operating system of the world, and how they correlate or don't.
Yep.
And that's what I work on with people, is getting that smooth. Take out all of the bugs that are getting in the way, and we all have them. We have shadow beliefs that we've accumulated. We have social constructs that we obey unconsciously. We have unconscious bias. Even towards our own ability, we have unconscious bias.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We have all these imposter syndrome. So I teach emotional intelligence and all that as well, because that's really a big part of the picture. I love what I do, and I get to work with the most amazing people.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, all the time, you know. And out of those people, you know, obviously, you know, you don't want to, we don't need to go through names or anything like that, but I'm sure you see people who have achieved tremendous levels of success and would be considered, you know, the best. And then there's another group of people who are tremendous people, but they're, you know, so what are some traits that you see some of the top performing CEOs or people that you work with? What are a couple of traits that they might have that maybe the rest haven't developed yet, or just maybe don't naturally have, if that question makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously humility is a superpower.
Yep.
Humility is a superpower because it keeps you open to learning. People or leaders or managers or whatever, anybody who thinks they know is done for.
I agree.
If you know, there's no room for improvement. There's no room to grow. There's no room to learn something else.
Right.
If you know, you're done for. So the humility of not knowing is really important. Another thing is respect. The leaders that I work for, all, you know, or work with, they all have a big value of respect.
Sure.
They respect other people. They respect other opinions. It doesn't mean they kowtow to anybody. It just means that they are respectful of themselves, of others. And it's there's this openness with the humility and the respect that is really an amazing sweet spot that I have found, as it's generally what I call my entry point into transformation with my clients.
Yep. Yep.
Once you have those two things, almost anything is possible.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It really does when you combine those two things. Those things. I mean, humility, I think, is definitely the key. It is a superpower, and being able to, and that's what makes the best CEOs are people who recognize that they're not the best at everything. You know what I mean? So we have there are plenty of parts of my business that we have better people in place than I would be at that job, and there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? Because I can't do everything, and I'm not going to say, hey, I would be the best bookkeeper here. I'm going to be the one that handles all the finances. No, that's not where because what it ends up doing is not only does it help you build a team that is great, but it inevitably leads to back to your original point of you're doing now your highest ROI activity more often, because you're not thinking about the other stuff that you have agreed with yourself that you're not the best person for.
Right. Because now and I said this actually just this week to someone who was a CTO. Your job is not to be the best technical person in the company.
Right.
Which is like when you're CTO, you think that's your job. No, your job is to lead all of the best technical people in the company.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And that's why I think like that's kind of why I'm attracting the CTOs. It's because there's that pressure point for them. They need to be able to, they come out with, double PhDs, MIT or whatever, and like inventing incredible new forms of code, like things we've never even heard of before.
Yep.
And then but that's not enough, which is like a big mystery. Like, how can that not be enough? Like, you're super successful. You're so good at what you do. You're such an expert. How can that not be enough? Yeah. Well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the paradigm shift to, okay, you have to transfer that intelligence to your team, and you need your team to be the best technical people around.
Yep.
And you're the best leader of technical people around. And that whole thing is like, oh wow, because it's a muscle they haven't used for a long time.
Yeah. No, I mean,
because that's not where they put their energy.
No, exactly.
They developed other parts of themselves, rightly so, as it was asked of them. So they have to flip it, and it's a whole new journey. And that requires a really safe, professional space to do that.
Understood. No, yeah. I mean, I could see how that journey, has to transform for sure. And I think that you're spot on where, yeah, it goes from being data driven all the time to then opening their mind to, okay, now you don't need to be the best data analyst. You just need to be able to lead them to make the company the right decisions for the company and put it in its best spot. Makes perfect sense. Yeah. So speaking of technology and staying on that topic, how is technology, have you seen, it disrupting the coaching industry at all? Or have you been able to take advantages of some of like unique technology that people are using now, like maybe Zoom, where it allows you to, work with people who don't necessarily need to be geographically close to you?
I think the coaching industry was already there.
Sure.
So let's say like in 2020, I upgraded my credentials and went through some training and all of that, and everything was on Zoom and everything was absolutely international.
Wow.
So my cohort, there was people from Canada, Italy, Sweden, New Jersey, Washington, so that was already there, and we were already all on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I, in my practice, was also receiving people in person in my home because they wanted it that way.
Right.
So that forced a shift for some of my clients to work remotely. But I was already working with Mexico, Honduras,
Oh, wow.
Italy, France. I've got Thailand, Philippines. So I mean, I'm already there. The UK, already there. It's
Wow.
already happening. Obviously, other states in the United States as well. So I think that it's going to simply add to this ability to find someone who is a great match for you as a coach, and you don't have to stick to this. So, for example, I lived in Europe for 20 years. So, when I work with Europeans, especially French and UK, we have a lot in common.
Right. Hmm.
I had a lot of formative years in the UK and a lot of formative years in France. So we share things. And so this is I think kind of a new normal.
Mm.
It's good. There's good things and bad things about it,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. Yep. Yep. But it is very cool, in the sense that, because traditionally, prior to this type of technology, it would just be, you'd be limited to where you can drive on any given day or where your clients can drive to you. But now it's like you can work with anybody, across all different, especially that's very cool that you have some ties to the UK and France and
Yeah.
can continue, even though you might be in America, can continue to do business over there and maintain relationships, on a professional level.
Yeah, and I think it's what's happening is there's a mind shift that, well, this is the way we do it now. Because a lot of people prior to this would have said to me, "Oh, no, I prefer to be in person and so I'm going to find somebody who's more close to me."
Yep.
Instead of looking at someone who's more close in mind and heart or experience or expertise, they're looking for this locality thing so that they can physically meet in person. But since that's no longer available, I mean, well, I might as well just get the person who fits me best. My physical therapist now is no longer in my locality. She's in Oregon.
Wow. That's amazing.
Like I had to go on Zoom anyway.
Yes.
I just would, okay, so I'm going to find the absolute best person that I can talk to. She's going to understand everything I say. And if I talk to her about meridians or prana or whatever, she's going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And she's going to understand, the kinds of things I do for my body.
That's awesome. And that makes perfect sense too. Why not? You got to do it that way anyways. So it's like, go after the person
Go for
that,
the best.
oh yeah, yeah. I love that. It's really interesting. So how are people finding you? You got the CEO Whisperer title. I'm sure carries a good amount of weight, which, but at the end of the day, I mean, how are you attracting, new CEOs and what's working for you when it comes to, growing your business that way?
I'm still very much on a referral basis. Um, because I have chosen to not make a system, but rather be the coach that adapts to the client. I'm still on a referral, so I tend to have a full roster because of you know people talking to people.
Hmm.
I do a little bit of online work now. I'm on Instagram. I have a website. I'm beefing a lot of that stuff up because I don't know how things might shift. And
Sure.
just like I found my PT, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should be more present as the best for this particular thing.
Hmm.
And so I am beefing that up a little bit. But thus far, I have to say it's really just polishing my aura. It's not, and it's just getting my presence out there. I'm not that aware Actually, no, that's not 100% true because I've solidified my network with real people through Twitter, Instagram, uh, LinkedIn, and all of that. And so I did actually have someone bring me a client through Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, I just realized that. So by being on Instagram, it did actually bring me something. It opened that door for that person to say, hey, somebody I know needs a coach. You're the best one I know. Here, talk to this person. So
That's
it's kind of like a new layer to the referral.
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
that's great.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, referrals is the best way to get business, obviously, at the end of the day. It's if you can establish a good referral network, then like you said, you're gonna stay busy, you're gonna keep a full roster, and the people that are working with you, you don't have to go out and make sales. Like they're coming to you for a reason. So they already, have been someone else already sold for you, which is great. But yeah, no, I do think there's a lot of cool ways out there, like you said, to, we built a lot of our business off of being present online and growing, playing with different strategies when it comes to SEO. People finding us with
Yes.
keywords, I think, has been super important. And email marketing has been great. You know what I mean? Even though that like changes all the time when it comes to spam filters, it's still super powerful if you get good at it. Getting your message out there, at least to a wide audience. But no, different things work for different people, and I think that at the end of the day, any business's goal would be to get a lot of their clients from referrals.
Yeah. I think so. I think so. It's but then also it's the kind of business I am in doesn't require a long roster of clients.
Sure,
If I've got 20 clients,
you're busy.
I'm yeah, because you have to remember I'm writing, publishing a book. I'm doing my own podcast.
Oh yeah,
So my podcast is here's a plug, right?
nice. Plug it in.
Plug it in. Paradise podcast, Paradise Reclaimed podcast. Sorry, I Paradise Reclaimed. So what I'm working on there is helping people who can't be my client because that's expensive,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And so, but what I teach CEOs is good for everybody
Mm,
in all levels of life. If that whole paradigm shift of understanding yourself and growing your emotional intelligence or whatever that might be works for everybody.
oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Paradise Reclaimed, is basically taking back your own personal power and understanding how you work, how the world works, and how you can have the successes and the gains that you want in your life in the same way that I would educate a professional.
I like it a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because that sounds
Yeah,
great.
I hope you do, and you'll tell
So
me what works and what doesn't work for you.
I will. I will. No, I need some more new podcasts, and that one sounds like a good one to just educate myself on different things. So the last question I like to ask my guests, ask everybody, I'm trying to build out a library at some point in my life. What's a good book recommendation that you would give the audience? It doesn't have to be business related. It could be something that you've read recently or anything you want.
There's a lot. There is a lot written in my field. I like psychocybernetics, Maxwell Malt. I always mess up his name. I do like Simon Sinek and Brene Brown, everything they've written. I do also like The Four Agreements by Reese. What else is there? I mean, there are things like Thinking Fast and Slow.
Hmm.
I think it's Kaufman or Kalman or whatever. I just started reading that the other day. But a lot of that stuff is really super intellectual.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like it. So I don't feel like it gives a lot of power to the individual. It's like it pulls you into something that's very educational,
Hmm.
but I don't feel like it's like, mm. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
you're not gonna read
help.
it and go out and, change your whole world from you're gonna pick up probably a lot of really good knowledge if you
Right.
do it the right way, but
Mhm. Now,
does
something like the four
probably not
agreements,
very applicable all the time for everybody.
right? But something like the four agreements makes you pop.
Mhm.
It's kind of like so little, this little book,
Yep,
kind of fun to read. So it
yeah,
keeps you going.
yeah,
And then you're like, first, don't take it personally. First agreement, like, oh, well, yeah, I guess we kind of do that, don't we? So
all the time.
if you stop taking it personally, whew, it like takes a load off. You can think again.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are like all these, I like those kind of books
That one
because,
sounds like a great one, and that's, yeah, I'll definitely take a look into everything, but you normally I end these things and go on Amazon and end up
yeah,
buying a book or something, so, yeah. Like I said, trying to build up the library, I think that would be a fun thing to have. Especially around the office, being able to offer it to the employees if they wanna take a book and read, and I
yeah.
encourage that type of stuff. Well, this has been awesome, Terry. Thank you very much for coming on and joining me. I appreciate all the info that you've given into you know, your profession and how people think and how work and coach them through some of life's challenges. And I'll definitely take you up on, taking a look at that podcast for sure.
Please do. I want all the feedback. So, Paradise Reclaimed podcast.
And where can people find you? You mentioned, a couple different places.
Well, we have the website, so
Yep.
paradisereclaimedpodcast.com.
Yep.
We have we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Google, we're on Deezer, we're pretty much everywhere. So if you can remember Paradise Reclaimed, it's sort of like getting back your own little Garden of Eden for yourself,
I like that.
and taking back your personal power. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that sounds awesome. Well, thank you again, Terry. This has been great.
Thank you, Joe. You've been
Take care.
great. This has been awesome.
Appreciate it. Take care.